Hi, I'm Becky.
And I'm Lindsay, and we're here talking BHVA insights, and today's topic is all about pausing, taking a breath and taking a moment, whether that be along a big journey or in your day-to-day, to just help ground you and help you make those next steps.
Okay.
So, should we talk about some students first?
No, I think we want to talk about us first.
Oh, okay. Right. So, this one's very good at going to me. I keep doing this. This one is very good at saying pause. So quite often, we'll have a very frantic day. We all know that feeling. By 9:10 of a morning, you are absolutely worn out already, because you've got up, you've got the kids ready, you've sorted the house, you've taken the dog for a walk, you've dealt with school run, you've dealt with school mums, you've dealt with traffic on the way to school, you've got your list in your head of everything you need to do, you know what's coming up, and then you're like, and it just goes mental. And just pause, just stop, and she'll phone me, she'll go, breathe, and I'll go, okay, and I'll wiggle my toes on the floor at the same time. That's my little thing. So as I'm breathing, I wiggle my toes to ground myself, and then I can clear it, and I can park it, and I can actually move on and concentrate with the job in hand and what I need to do.
Yeah, it's so important to do that. You need that time to sometimes just get your brain in order, because when you've got so much going on and you put yourself under so much pressure because you think you've got to get so much done, you can't achieve anything. So, I mean, my to-do list is ridiculously long. It's like that and then that and then that. But I've worked a system out so I can do it, so I can go, right, that is way too much, so I'm going to just stop. I'm going to look at it, I'm going to think, right, what do I actually need to get done today? And then I can put that in place.
What do you call it? You've got your, is it your frog?
I have my frog.
She has a frog of the day, and that's her must-do, that has to happen that day. And the other then bits on the list
are your bonuses.
Are your bonuses and your
treat it. So yeah, the frog thing is a business coaching thing, so you have to eat a frog each day. So it's something that's going to help move the business forward or move what you need to do forwards. And that is your frog. Now, frogs are disgusting, but if you do it first of all, you can give yourself a pat on the back. The hardest thing that you've done is sorted. And that applies to practicing as well, if you deal with the hardest first.
Oh, massively. We all put off the difficult thing, don't we? Whether we're at school, whether we're in a music lesson, whether we're doing a dance move, whether we're doing a piece of artwork, we keep putting off the difficult stuff.
Even in day-to-day lives.
We put off the difficult stuff. Sort of renewing the mortgage, sorting out, oh my God, I hate phoning up to sort out my phone bill. I think that's the worst thing in the world, when you have to go through that onerous conversation. You put it off. Actually, if you just deal with it head on,
it's sorted.
It's sorted, and it's so much better. And put it up to the top of that list as your frog. That's your non-negotiable for the day. It clears the way for headspace and other developments.
Massively. And then yes, you have the other bits which you try to get done during the day. And sometimes there's something you think you need to get done, but actually you can't get it done until something else is sorted out. I've been dealing with that a lot this week. I've been desperately trying to get some things sorted for students. And I'm like, why is it taking me all this time? And actually I have to stop. See, I'm stopping. And just go, right, come on, we can't do this until this bit is done. So as much as it's frustrating, in order for the student to have a better experience, I've got to get that done. I can't even speak today. It's going to be one of those days.
See, because we're going to pause.
Yeah. Get that headspace. But it does so much more. It allows you to reflect. It allows you to just take stock, reevaluate if needed. And all of that is so important for functioning, whether it's actually within a practice session, whether it's within a work, whether it's in just general day-to-day activities you've got to do.
And it just gives you a moment to actually get the feeling of being in control again. So much of the chaos happens when we feel out of control. And actually by taking a pause and take a breath, you feel empowered to go right. And you're in control rather than feeling like you're on this treadmill or being pulled in every which way in different directions. I know personally for me a little bit, when you are juggling with children, juggling food and tea time and work commitments, and the phones go in and you've got to check an email and then they need taking out somewhere, and all of a sudden you've put yourself in this total frenzied chaos that isn't needed. If you just pause and take a minute, you can establish what's the important bit and what you need to do. I listened to, it's one of the Dragon Dens one day, she was doing an interview on the radio and she was talking about being present, and when we are running our own business, or whether you're really passionate about a goal you've got, whether it be an audition or something coming along, you very much throw yourself into that all the time, and then other things come at you from the side and they hit you and they knock you off kilter, so then you can't cope and then it's overload. And she talked about how actually you need to just be present in whichever world or whichever situation you're in. So she very much goes, I'm with my children, the other bit can wait.
Yeah.
Or I'm at work at the moment, that bit can wait a minute. And it's about taking that moment to not feel like you've got to take everything on, pause and go, it can wait till later.
Yeah. And it's about those boundary settings, and it's making sure you know what boundaries you need at that time. So you can have boundaries throughout the entire day, and those boundaries will shift to what your needs are during that day. But it's also making sure that you don't get worked up and stressed about those boundaries. So like the other day, school run, kids were being a nightmare, and I was in the car and I could feel my anger and my angst just building up like this. So I shut my ears off to them and I did the square breathing method. So like square breathing, you breathe in whilst you're counting to 4 slowly, you hold your breath for 4, you breathe out slowly, counting to 4, you hold your breath for 4, and then you repeat. You do that about 3-4 times and you find yourself a lot calmer and actually able to focus on what you need to do. And because you've pulled that fight or flight motion that's going on, because you're like, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, and then you start going, oh my goodness, I can't do anything. You can then pull it back down, and then you can go, okay, now I have got control of this, and at the moment, this is what I've got to focus on, and the rest can just wait. And that's so important.
And it's having that little toolkit of little exercises that work for you. Like the square breathing for me doesn't work particularly well because I lose track when I'm counting, and then I hear other stuff, like I can't block out sounds very well, whereas you're really good at zoning. You can zone those sounds out, can't you?
That's because I have to zone in and out with singing.
Yeah, so she's got this different skill, whereas for me I can't, and I think from the dance and the movement I'm very spatially aware of things coming around all the time, so I'm very aware of my surroundings. So for me, I very much do a different grounding technique, which is still the breath, taking it in and out, but then as it goes out, I take it down through my body and wiggle my toes on the floor, because then it's just grounding me back in my place, because then it's just taking that moment to feel the body, and then I can step into it. And it's a really good tip, like if you're going into an exam or you're about to do a presentation, we get those same feelings of anxiety for different reasons if we're nervous.
Yeah.
And we suddenly go, oh my God, I've got to remember this, and I'm about to go to music exam, and I've got to remember this, oh, and that's how, what was that again? I can't remember that. And you just need to take that moment to ground yourself, to prepare.
So when you get into that, you're going into what's called fight or flight mode, and it's when those adrenaline levels are kicking in, we're going into a primal instinct, which is, do I have to get prepared to fight, or do I have to get prepared to run away? 9 times out of 10 we want to run away when we get into these positions and these situations. But we know that there are things that we can do that will help. Breathing is a huge one, because when you breathe, there's a nerve that runs from your body through up here all the way down through your tummy, called the vagus nerve. And if you stimulate that nerve, it helps to calm you down. Breathing is a really clear, sure way of doing that. So especially if you're doing what we call fricative breathing, so you're using sounds like shh or f, because those vibrations and sounds that you're doing will be felt by that vagus nerve and it will calm you down. So it's a nice long shh, almost like a sigh, and again just shh. Those will help just to calm you down and pull that through. So they're really good little things for doing for that. Obviously in the exam you can't do that, so that's where you do some more silent breathing. Trying to do it through the nose will help, because it slows that whole breath instantly. You can't over breathe through the nose. You have to breathe slower because of the filtration systems and things within the nasal cavities. It calms everything down. Lindsay's also mentioned about those movements.
Oh yeah.
Little finger movements, little wrist circles, some elbows, all of that. If you start doing those, you will feel that tension just seeping through. We hold all our tension in our upper bodies and our shoulders and voices will get tighter and creep up. But as soon as you start moving there, those muscles that are tightening up have to loosen because they're moving. They can't stay constricted just because of the nature of muscles working. So that then starts to release and relax that, so you then start feeling more released and relaxed.
And if you've got the opportunity to sit in a chair, I'm not sitting properly now, as we should be, but 2 feet on the floor, very much at right angles, just getting the alignment through. So just think of that point of alignment going all the way through and just realign everything in the body so that you can also breathe effectively, so you've opened it all up. It starts there. Your brain can't work properly unless you're physically prepared and ready as well.
But you've also got to take it the other side as well. So we're talking about all these things that we need to do when we're in that moment. Yeah. But sometimes we just have to accept that we're in that moment and go, oh, I'm feeling really stressed, this is happening. But you know what? I'm allowed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's mindfulness exercises that you can do where actually, whilst you're in that moment, you may catch yourself not focusing on the thing that you need to focus on. So you catch yourself listening to sounds outside of it, and you should be focusing inwardly on yourself. But if you kick yourself about it, you're not going to focus inwardly. So you just have to go, yeah, okay, I've done that, so I'm going to focus back in again. And that can be just as powerful.
Oh, massively. And I think the other thing as well to be really mindful of is there's loads of top tips, there's loads of advice sheets out there about what you need to do for a mindful activity. There's loads of things that you need to do with breathing exercises, but again, it all comes down to what works for you and trying them, giving it a go, and adapting it and doing what helps you in that moment. Everybody's an individual, everybody's got different needs. One way shouldn't work for everybody.
No.
It shouldn't. So you can't put your pressure to go, oh, I need to do this now. Well, no, you don't need to do that. Do you want to do it? Is that what's going to work for you? Because again, if you start putting the pressure of I need to fix it on it, the anxiety levels are going to rise even more, and it's going to be then a vicious circle of absolutely getting nowhere. So the most powerful bit is just that pause and stop. Sometimes you can't always pause and stop when you need to either. So like sometimes I find, and I think we all find this, you can't necessarily do it at that moment in the day, which is what we were just talking about, but you can do it later on, and you can reflect later on, perhaps before you go to bed. Take a dog for a walk, take a moment to look outside of something else and just appreciate something, and take a pause, take a moment to reflect, to draw a line under the day as well, so that you can get a fresh start the next day.
But again, it's making sure that mindset is in a positive framework. So it's not looking back or dealing with it at the moment and going, I shouldn't have done that. It's going, okay, that happened. What can I learn from it? What can I do to improve it next time? Don't look at the negatives. Always flip it and look at what you can take away from it and what you can take forward. Because that, again, is going to reduce all those anxieties, all those fight or flights, that stress is going to come down because the way that you're looking at it is different. You're not looking at what the problem was. You're looking at what the solution is to make it improve it.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is going, do you know what? Sometimes you can't carry on in the moment, in the day. And we sometimes talk to each other and we go, we've got to a point where it's just not working, so we're going to stop. And we do stop, yeah? And we have these moments where also we don't just take a breath, we go, right, I need to stop today. I had one yesterday, my head had gone fuzzy, I had a couple of quite intensive sessions, I'd got home, I was going to do another hour work before picking my daughter up, and that intense pressure, and also then after the day I just went, no, I'm not functioning, so I stopped. So I didn't do it because I knew that was better to stop than to try and do it and then deal with the frustration of getting in there, because I knew I wasn't in the right mindset to do it. And actually I didn't have the guilt afterwards that I hadn't done the work. I didn't have the guilt that I hadn't reached that tick list on my list. I was like, I did what I needed to do to look after myself, which means that today I'm functioning better and able to do it. And it's the same whether you're doing practice or a rehearsal or anything. Sometimes you go, do you know what? If you're doing the practice and you're in it and it's going wrong and wrong and wrong, are you in the right frame of mind? Are you in the right position to do it? Is today the right time to do it? I could stop and do it tomorrow.
And then you're going to achieve so much more. And it's the same with practice. I used to, and please don't ever do what I used to do when I was practicing. I remember when I was younger and I was practicing flute at home, and there was one particular thing I just could not get. And I literally thought that if I banged against my head against a wall that it would help. So I banged my head against a wall. Not hard, but just to get it, and it worked. But that's not a good thing to do, because that takes it to another level, and that's not a healthy level. At that moment, I should have walked away from it, and it's what I tell all my students to do now. Learn from my mistakes. Please don't ever do what I do. And actually, when you're getting to that stage where you feel that frustration, sometimes just walk away.
Yeah, walk away. Take the pause, walk away, let go. Don't put the pressure on yourself.
And the way the brain works, actually that walking away can help the brain process everything. So the amount of stuff that our brain does when we think we haven't got something and we walk away for 24, 48 hours and then come back to it then, our brain has figured it out whilst we've been away, and then we come back and we can do it. I'm sure everyone out there has had that kind of thing where they've done it in the past, where they're really struggling with something, they can't get it, and they work it, and it's not working. They come back a couple of days later and they go, oh, that's really easy. It's because you're giving your brain that time to actually assimilate all that information, process it all, and go, okay, now I know what I've got to do. And sometimes you can't do that consciously, and in the moment, it's not possible.
And the simplest example of that, there's two, is riding a bike and swimming, because we can all link to that. We've all tried to ride a bike, we've all tried to learn to swim, and you do it first time, you can't do it. But your brain remembers a little bit at a time, a little chunk at a time. Take a break from it. If you're taking your child out and going, come on, let's ride a bike and try and do it in an hour in an afternoon, it's not going to work, and everyone's going to get stressed because there's too much pressure on that point. You've put a time frame in place, it's unachievable, it's going to collapse and be a disaster, put people off wanting to do it. If you just do it fun, dip out, do you fancy doing it today? Not really. Should we go today? Yes. Hook it when you want to do it, hook it when the passion needs there, and all of a sudden there's a want and a desire, and that gives it the impetus to...
Exactly, and that is where you're going to succeed much more, and with a lot more ease and with a lot more speed. It might not feel it at the time because you're like, I should be doing this now, but actually having it where that, it doesn't always happen that way, because sometimes the pressures mean that we can't, but where we can, doing it when we're at that stage to be able to do it is good.
So I think top tips: take a breath, take a pause, find what works for you to ground you, to get you back in the moment.
Don't do everything at once. We can't multitask. That is a myth. You can flit between tasks, but you're never going to actually achieve anything with substance if you do that. Walk away.
And walk away if you need to. It's absolutely fine, and you'll feel so much more empowered and in control of yourself, which is the key to success in anything. It's taking ownership of what's right for you. So breathe, walk away, don't put too much pressure on.
And be kind. Accept that sometimes that we can't do it. And that's allowed. Give yourself permission to say,